How's it going, everybody? It's Max Mar here. Normally don't do morning streams, but I'm off all this week. Gonna be helping somebody move in DC. I help them move all the stuff that they're gonna be having on the road, but this person has no idea that I'm not gonna be helping move all this heavy ass German furniture. I'm not sure, like anybody who's been to Germany or anybody who's aware of like German furniture know that that's some heavy ass shit. I mean, the stuff is like indestructible, man. What's going on? Justin March, BK, Seek My Creator, Goshen, NJ Profit, Black Curls. So what I did is what I always do. I don't do grunt work. I just call in reinforcements. I'm not about to lift all this heavy shit. I will help you with the stuff that you're putting in the car, but I'm not lifting up all this stuff, man. Nah, no way that's gonna happen. So I'm about to get on this plane, fly to Northern Michigan, and take the rest of the week off on the water. So this live stream here is about this is the beginning. And you have to recognize that these cyclical conversations that we have within the Black Manosphere, you still got to take some steps for progress on your own outside of these conversations. Well, I can't say that. So let me give you a story of this guy. He disappeared off the radar. I was kind of worried about him for a while, but then he disappeared off the radar, and I'm glad he disappeared off the radar. Okay, I talked to this guy. It was I talked to him. I'm gonna say January of last year, 2020. He contacted me after my stream that I did on New Year's, and see, he said that he was ready to take a step and a move in his own direction. So I'm like, dude, look, if you want to do this, you got to take a move right away. So he said, well, I was thinking about nursing. I'm like, dude, listen, in the state that you in, 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe even a month from now, you could be already producing after you go to school. They're like, oh, I didn't have the money. I'm like, all right, man, don't worry about it. I'm gonna pay for a school, and your ass is gonna show up there. Seemed to be a good dude, cause I've talked to him over 6 months, but he was finally ready to make a move. So I'm like, look, all right, man. So let's take money out of the equation, and let's see what you do with it. So I called up the school. Like, look, got a student coming in, blah blah blah. But like, for those state tested, I think in that state it's called state tested STNA something. What it was a CNA course, for like, the nursing stuff, right? So I paid for the school. He actually finished the school, and then he disappeared. Now we're talking about January of last year, so he probably would have graduated mid February. So this dude did exactly what I told him to do. He got his stuff together. He got a job. He saved his money, and he left. That's right. He left. So now, keep in mind, this is the beginning of when everything is closing down. And he's now in a in-demand field on the ground floor. And all that dude did was work, 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 work. Dangerous circumstances. I'm pretty sure a lot of people died, especially those frontline workers when it came to in these hospitals and stuff. A lot of these security guards and a lot of these people who was cleaning up the equipment, a lot of those people died, man. A lot of those people died. But this dude, he just kept at it. So what he did is the progress that he made, he saved up a gang of money. More money than he's ever even thought about making, more money than he ever thought about investing in anything. He just wanted to see how far it would go. Then he did one thing that he wasn't supposed to do. He went back home and tried to share the good news with the people that he thought was going to appreciate the fact that he now can be able to produce on his own and he don't need anybody's respect or love or any of that stuff. Not in a bad way. He was a young dude coming to give the news of how far he's come to other people that he thought he can help with simple information. Those people wanted to make him feel like the lowest and one of the worst people on the planet. Why? Because with him making progress so early, it exposes the fact that they've not made any progress at all. And he felt real hurt about that. I'm like, bro, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. When you first see it, it hurts the most. But you're going to have to learn to let everything be okay because you can't be able to help everybody with the path that you own. Because hearing about your success, the fact that you're finally figuring this stuff out, nobody wants you to kill their dreams. Everybody think they're at the top of where they are at right now. And when you come and bring reality to people that are not used to living in reality, they will get mad at you removing the cloth from their eyes. So I'm like, dude, listen, you're going to have to realize you didn't get to choose your family, but you can choose who you celebrate your wins with. And most likely, that's not going to be family. Yeah, I have more in common with a lot more people in this space than most people in my family. I have a lot more in common with people that I served in the military with than people in my own family. I have more in common with people that I served on the police force with than people in my family. And you have to realize this is the beginning of when you get to choose your associations. This is just the beginning. You already got the productivity piece under control. The type of money he make right now, he can go get him a slice of real estate the moment he got a tax return based off this level of productivity this year. But see, what he did is he didn't know that doing things right, nobody wanted to see that. They wanted people to hold the line in the sand of stagnation until somebody cares and give them everything that they want. I told this dude, this is just the beginning. I'm like, dude, you haven't even had any major losses yet. You got to recognize that nobody wants progress. Nobody is going to celebrate your progress. This is why the progress has to be on your own, the path has to be on your own, and the celebration and the comfort of getting those things done have to be on your own. Because if you turn around and you expect external validation from people who don't want to see other people's validated other than themselves, you're going to be a very upset person consistently. There is nothing wrong with doing the right thing. There's a lot wrong with it by celebrating it with the wrong people. And this is why it's vitally important that as you formulate your team in life, you are the standard. You're the standard. And that they had the same choice that you did to make it where you are. They just didn't take it. What a lot of these people don't tell you is they purposefully get themselves into these situations to wreck, ruin, and destroy their actual ability to move around so that way they can have an excuse for failure. But an excuse for failure is a life sentence without the possibility of parole. But it does have the possibility of having reality being flashed in your face by somebody who's far younger than you, who's far more productive than you, who's far more ahead than you, maybe even half of your age. I understood this when I went in the military. 17 years old, left Mississippi, graduation night. I got on the plane, went straight to Lackland in San Antonio. Got there, turned 18 years old. There I was with dudes who were 30 and 40 years old. Those people hated the fact that I was a young dude who was on the same level as them. And in some cases, even further than them. But that's just the beginning. You're going to have to be comfortable with your own progress. And you can't socially retard yourself to keep yourself in other people's good graces. That's not how that works. You're going to have to be comfortable leaving these people behind, man. There's going to have to be a split. And sometimes the split isn't something that's going to be announced. The split quietly happens. You're going to have to grow to a point to where you're going to have to get tired of being around this stuff. You're going to have to come to a point to where you don't want to be defined by this stuff other people are defined by. Like I said, this is just the beginning for this guy. And even though he had no example of how to do this, he simply talked to me, or he could have talked to anybody else, and he caught the lesson the right way. He caught it at a good time. Everything closing down, making a boatload of money each week. He didn't go out and buy a big ass car. All the clubs were closed, so he couldn't go find him one of these people to take his productivity away from him. Now he feels lost. Yeah, he feels lost. Yeah, but he shouldn't feel lost by doing the correct thing. He shouldn't feel lost by being ahead of other people. He should feel good about that. But see, this is what this culture does to decent people who've actually done it right. They try to destroy them. They try to sabotage the person's self-esteem. But a lot of people don't want to see you succeed, man, because because the sight of you succeeding is something that is too much for people to take. The sight of you moving past where these people are very early is too much for people to take. So I had to let this individual know that you can't tell everybody about where you are and where you're going and the path that you're actually on. A lot of people want to take that away from you. And it's going to come in the form of family. Those are the people that are closer to you. Those are the people who think that they can do whatever they want to because you're family. There's a lot of my family members that I put in jail. They didn't give a damn. You do something wrong to me, I'm turning your ass into the goddamn people. Because that's what should happen every time. I'm not going to let you miss out on one time of these consequences. Because what passive people hate more than anything else in the world is direct consequences. He was telling me about, and he did it right. You know, he lived in an Airbnb with with other people who was in the same field. Paid minimal money to survive. Again, he did it right. He didn't go out and try to live in this big ass crib while he was making all this money. Nah, he focused on the damn work. His goal now is to start moving up further into this nursing stuff. You know, I gave him an idea like, hey man, a couple years, man, you need to stop working for people. You need to turn this into a 1099 situation where you're working for yourself. But see, what you got to do is start building these connections within the industry of where you're at. So that way, when you separate, what's going on, Bunker TV? So that way, when you separate, you have people to get business from. I have a friend of mine in Memphis who I went to high school with. She does that. She's a registered nurse, separated from the hospital that she works from. Now she gets patients from all the hospitals in the area. Now she's making a boatload of money, more money than she can ever even think about per hour. And this is how you have to do that. You're going to have to start surrounding yourself with equals, but it's good that you know that at the beginning. This is just the beginning when you start surrounding yourself with equals. The rise comes better when you start surrounding yourself with equals or people who are better than you. But this is just the beginning. The problem with this culture is that they want you to learn these lessons after you done destroyed your life, after you want to be able to listen, after you want to have this redemption story. That's when they want to help you. They want to help you with the redemption story. They don't want to help you with the primary arc. They want to help you with the redemption story. But a lot of people don't live to the redemption story. That's the problem. But this is just the beginning when you find out these particular things. Because nobody is going to help you with these things. It's rare that you find this type of information and help with these type of things. Because a lot of these family members, most likely your parents, they're okay with keeping domesticated child pets just so long as that misguided child can help that parent feel comfortable about where they are. I have cousins, nieces, and nephews who are far more productive than their ain't shit parents, and that's fine. But see, a lot of those people think that now that I have the formula of how this stuff works, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to give this information to people, and man, they're going to love me for it once I give them the actual solutions to this actual deal. And in their situations, they felt the same way that this guy did. They were hurt. Good for you, man. Same thing, same level of hurt. And this is me just talking to, these people over Xbox Live while I'm playing games and shit when I'm not driving. I'm not actively in these people's lives like that. We got to have a basis and a ground floor where the people who did the shit right can actually live to actually benefit from it and not share it with other people who actually don't respect it and is most likely going to destroy it. But this is just the beginning, because if you cannot turn down bad things under bad conditions, what do you think is going to happen when your conditions get better and you don't have the ability to turn down bad things? Don't have the ability to say no. Don't have the ability to say, hey, man, we can't team up together. You don't have the requisite amount of displayed track record and loyalty to be a part of my team. You're going to have to say no a lot. Sometimes it's better to not grow at all than having the inappropriate people around and trying to grow with that. Again, this is just the beginning. This is why you got to have a destination that you can see, that you're working towards, that you write down, that you research, that you can clearly see demonstrated, that you clearly know the path of. Because if you outsource things that are your responsibility, you are not going to be happy with the results. Yeah, man, it's just options. Me personally, I wanted enough time to think, enough time to plan, and to make money while doing so. So I found something that does all three. There's nothing wrong with moving up, man. There's a lot of people I know who's been that first rung of a CNA. They've been there for 20 something years, some 25 years, working at the same place. This is not the 1980s. You're not going to have the same job at the same place forever. What? Yeah, if the work is going to be going on forever like that, it's time that you separate and have a 1099 situation going on, or a corporate situation where you're actually growing this actual thing all over the country. You have to be on the ground floor of that. You have to take advantage of opportunity while it's out here. Sure do. And the more money you have, the more options come up, the more you're going to have to say no. The more you're going to have to research more and act less. But this is just the beginning. It's your responsibility to make it there, man. It doesn't matter how you were raised, what the circumstances was. None of that matters. Once you realize that this stuff is in your hands and that you don't need hardly any help other than a path to actually make it, all of it's on you. But like I said, this is just the beginning. Because the lessons are not going to get any harder. They're going to be the same lessons. You're still going to have to stay away from problematic people. You're still going to have to wait for snakes to come in your midst and try to take pieces of your organization away from you, but try to make it theirs. You're still going to have to watch uncultured people consistently. All these things are going to be the same. But see, you're not going to be able to share this type of things with everybody. You have to share with equals because what was practiced is that people were allowed to grow the nest without a point, fully expecting you to come and clean up their mess with your productivity later on. That is what the plan was. And it's time you know that's what the plan is. So when you see people in certain places acting like there's nothing at stake when there clearly is something at stake, you got to have the strength to not help them. You got to have the strength to say no. But this is just the beginning. For this guy, for these nieces and nephews who are in their early 20s, far more productive than most people in the family, you can't hang out with them no more. You can't be around them any longer. You can see them during the holidays, meeting at a place that's not theirs and not yours, and then you roll out. That's when you see them. That's when you see nothing has changed with these people. That's what he's saying during the holidays. Nobody wanted to hear how good he was doing. People wanted to see that they still had the level of power and reference over him. That's what he saw. And this is why productivity is the enemy of most black people. And most people who are stagnant, they don't want to hear you producing without them being able to enjoy it or control it. They don't want to hear about how good you're doing unless they can directly benefit. Well, like I said, this is just the beginning. If he understands this in his early 20s, what do you think is going to happen if he decides to create another generation of people under the right circumstances? And then they get the lesson. And you're supposed to have no care in the world for people who don't share your path. These people have been getting by with productive people's sympathy the entire time, deliberately destroying things because they have an easier life, staying stuck, waiting on you to come and help them. Now you get to see it. Now you understand how important time is. Now you can see it. Now it's quite introspective. You have to look at this stuff through the eyes of a time lapse camera. Now you get to see how this stuff is going to blossom out of control. You're just not going to be there when it does happen. Sure has. You see, other cultures that I'm routinely around, they don't have this problem. Especially the Indian culture. They don't give a damn if you own 3 stores. You ain't got no doctorate. You're a goddamn failure. Nobody cares about how much money you got. That's just the way it is. You have to understand that excellence is a responsibility that you get to practice in your time. It is nothing that you're going to be able to share outside of your time for the most part. And a lot of these things you're going to have to stay away from. You're going to have to be aware of them, but not exposed to them. If somebody's trying to do this a certain type of way, they're trying to get something from you that they won't work for. You have to understand that a lot of people have that type of culture inside of them, that non responsibility when get caught culture. This is why people, and this space is just a small example of why people require so much patience out of other people while they exhibit none. This is why people require so much principle but exhibit none, because they think that they have more rights than you, even if they don't produce more than you. It's out their head. But like I said, this is just the beginning, man. And it's time that you got this information very early. And it's time that you stop caring about people who are not on the path, who haven't put in the work, because everybody wants to exhibit the behavior of a changed man when they don't have any options left. There is a many of time I gave people a chance, and the only thing they tried to do was put themselves further on. Now you can say, "Oh, well, you must have been weak." No, an opportunist will take an opportunity from anything to put themselves on in a greater effect. They don't care, and when they get caught, they have that same reptilian, stoic look on their face, man. But this is just the beginning. I'm deliberately splitting this space into two groups of people. That is my deliberate goal, to show you the people who are ready and the people who are not, the people who want to move forward and the people who are not. I don't give a shit about subscribers, man. I don't give a shit about that. I don't give a shit about live viewers. I give a fuck about outcomes, male outcomes. Because the better outcomes you have, the better you're not actually supporting everybody with your outcomes, this thing is going to clean itself up. But it takes a lot longer. I'm playing the long game. I'm playing the long game. The long game's better. The short game, you're waiting on other people to notice you, to think about you, to do things for you. No, I'd rather have a plan and an action that I can control. You can't keep falling for these victim mentality arguments, talking about the outcomes of women that you don't control. You're going to consistently see that from older individuals within this space because that's all they got to talk about. Anything not to take any action, any tangible actions. But you're going to see that there's a lot more people who want to stir the pot at the bottom rather than work their way to the top. Like I said, this is just the beginning. And it's good that you notice it now. Well, see, a lot of people don't have time for the long game because they got to produce right now. They got to get on right now. They got to do this right now. But as long as you know this early enough, and as long as you're not practicing this information from a level of the redemption story, you're going to be just fine. Because practicing it from the redemption story, you're going to think that everyone else needs to go through the same things that you went to in order for them to have the redemption story. But that's not the case. You can do the correct things at the correct time. The correct things don't require a certain age to it. It's still the same process. A lot of people think that they have to be back to a wall, backed into a corner, so that way they can come out swinging. Like, no, man, you can come out swinging early. But a lot of people don't want to see that. This is why they want to get you hooked on codependency early. So that way you won't produce unless you can share. They only want you to produce as long as you can share it with them. That's what this is about. But this is just the beginning. When you know that that stuff is false and wrong, you have to be able to destroy this subculture. You need to be able to destroy it with me. Because the less children that they can send down this path, the better. But see, they need to eat the kids. They need to eat the youth. They need to do that. They need for you to be quiet while they try to sabotage others. They need that out of you. But this is just the beginning. When you know all this stuff is wrong, where it's very improper for 60-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, and 20-year-olds to be talking about the same type of women that they're going to be chasing. This is when you know that that stuff's improper. This is when you can move on beyond that early. You can move beyond it early. You could destroy through non-participation. Proper participation in the right things and non-participation in the wrong things, you're gonna be okay. Without the respect is not worth anything. But if your life is hell bent on the wrong type of things short term, you'll never see it. But see, you have to learn beginning to end thinking and end to beginning thinking. You have to understand how this path works. Because if you understand the path from beginning to end, there's no way that you're going to be BS past certain parts of it. But there's a whole subculture who's waiting to make you a member of their team. The only thing you got to do is not produce and let her run, control, and choose you as a member of her team. That's what's being taught here. They don't want you to understand this until you have nothing else to give. They don't want you to understand this until you've already wasted your life on their path. They don't want you to understand this. They want you to think that it's not possible. But you got to be able to look at it a different way, and you have to do it early. It's the same process whenever you start looking at it. It's the same process. So I'm gonna drop your link in the chat, see what comes up. Nobody comes up. I gotta get up out of here because I gotta catch a flight and get up out of DC. So yeah, you are correct, Dig Thug. Why do we belong to a group of people that are against productive men? This should be highlighted over everything else. And they wasn't making but $15 or $16 an hour when they was doing the shit. They could have easily worked at another trade and did some other shit. But you got to be forceful and letting these people know that they lost. Because I don't want to passively watch these people go peacefully into the night. I want to actively make sure that they get the hell off the field. Problem is, man, they want you to give up on the power of the individual. They want you to only act in an individual manner just so long as there's group benefit. And nothing really in the world works like that, man. And then they have this nerve to be sitting around at the bottom thinking that they give a damn about, the community, while they watch it be destroyed, while they do nothing to try to change it, while they criticize no part of the actual destructive mechanism. And the only thing they do is they sow in over and over again reasons to not take any type of steps to move away from the actual eventual outcome. Nice. Is anybody coming up? I want to thank y'all for coming through on the Man Tomorrow. Subscribe to the Patreon if y'all want to go even further with the conversation. You guys have a really nice day. Peace. Oh shit, somebody came up. Oh, King Simba, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's good, MOT, man? How you doing out there in DC, bro?
Oh, it's all right, man. Just trying to move her up out of here. She want to go back down south. So
Man, I like. Oh, so your people moving from DC back to the South?
yeah, well, at least she is. She is. She's been up here, got a doctorate, principal at school. She's tired of that shit. She's been up here for a while. We're the same age too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so she's about to move back down to Dallas, where a lot more other people are, in Houston, where even more people are. So she just want to, sold the place and told her not to do nothing stupid with the money. Go down there, get a place, and have it paid off, and do something productive with that money, because this is the path that she was on. She paid off the place in 15 years. And she said once she paid the place off, she was going to keep the money and move back down south. Now she can go back down there. Kids are all out of the house and shit. She had them real early, but she stayed on the productive path and got her shit together, man. So
well, Dallas, man, Dallas seems
Hey, hey everybody, how's it going?
if I ever move to the East Coast, that's about the only place that I really consider on the East Coast would be DC. But for me, I'm very attracted to the West Coast right now. But in regards to what the brother was asking when he said that, why are you a part of the race of people that put the lowest value on productive men? I mean, to me, it's like, when you look at a lot of the standardized tests, right? You got to ask yourself, what race scores the lowest on tests that relate to like analytical thinking, mathematical, linguistic, and spatial intelligence, right? That's the reason why you're a part of race that place the lowest value on productive men, because they place the lowest value on the kind of skill sets and frameworks that lead to successful production outside of like entertainment. So when you look at like the more emotional areas, when you look at the sports areas and the entertainment areas, then you will see that blacks in general, American blacks, will score high in those kind of areas that deal with things that are more kinetic, more feeling based. But when it comes to more mathematical way of thinking, which leads to the greatest production in America, those are going to be the areas that the black majority scores the lowest in. It's not something you can debate. You could just look across the board at the test scores. You could look at all the scores of the recent 18-year-olds graduating, and that's why you're a part of a race of people that don't value production, because they don't value the foundation, skills that leads to production.
The thing is that you're supposed to understand these foundational skills that you're supposed to grow up with at 40 something years old. That's the way this normally works on the redemption story arc nonsense.
Okay.
So, what's going on, Black?
Hey, hey man, how you doing? Hey man, I didn't even know my mic was muted for about a minute. I was wondering what was going on, but I unmuted it. I wanted to say both of you are completely right, and I think something that a lot of people, especially women, keep forgetting is that all forms of like training normally begin in the home. So if someone spent 10, 20, possibly even 30 years not learning that, these women magically expect these guys to just kind of and just kind of just get to it, and I'm laughing at them because they're the ones that mostly raised
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
But Blackwood MGTOW, we don't care about women on this channel. This is about making sure men have the most level of choice, so that way you can leave behind um, the people who don't know how to make the choice. We know what they raise. We're surrounded by
Okay.
what they raise. So it's about having deliberate choice to intentionally lead these people out of the discussion, because they're not going to be part of anybody's future, at least on this channel. We
Oh,
we,
okay.
we
I
know. Yeah,
respect
yeah,
that. I respect
yeah,
that. Sorry,
yeah.
for
No,
I
no,
guess
it's cool, man. It's just that we have to prepare people to leave people out of the discussion that's not going to be part of the future as men. Because if you keep worrying about the people who's not going to be, and if your conversations are insistently around keeping those type of people around that create bad outcomes, yeah, then nah, man, we're not.
okay.
Roosevelt, thank you for
Well,
the 3.99 super chat.
I guess I'll say I completely agree because I grew up with friends and even family that weren't exactly the most productive because I farm and do a lot of that stuff, but I couldn't really get a lot of people to help me with it. And I remember one time I was at an Applebee's, and you might laugh when I tell you this, but I was around a few friends and my girlfriend at the time before we had broken up and everything. I told them that I wanted to start a business, preferably my own bar slash smoke shop, and leave the country and do that. And I wanted to, kind of get us all on board on it. I had a floor plan. I had everything planned out. I wanted to take some of my land and make that possible because I know how to make moonshine and everything else too. So it wasn't like I just pulled it out of my ass or anything. They all they all immediately laughed at me and like, "Oh, you can't do that, or you're not smart enough to do that. Oh, that'll take a long time to do." And I got really pissed off about that. I dumped her and never talked to like any of those guys ever again because it it kind of hurts to have people tell you that, like, "Oh, you can't do that. You're not smart enough to do that." And then 10 years later, I'm closer to that than them working at Kohl's or whatever the hell they do now. It's just that there's a lot of dream assassins out there, and you have to be very, very careful
Oh
because
yeah.
they can come in different forms. These are people that call themselves your friends or your family, and then anybody that would say something like that to you, like, is not your friend. They never were, and just the act of being around them is just terrible. This is why we as men we need to value ourselves more. That's that's kind of the whole. That's why I like watching your channel because you teach that and you talk about it a lot, and that's men need to keep hearing that because we are not these tools to be used for society. We are not these emotionless or animatronic kind of beings. We have dreams, we have wants, we have desires, and we need to stop trying to muffle and suppress that for the betterment of others when it's just hurting us more than anybody.
Yeah, I agree. Because a lot of people don't understand that I had to keep it a secret that I was leaving the city when I was leaving, because I seen what happened when people was trying to quote unquote tell people the good news. You know, they'll set you up, or they'll try to send some chick over there. You end up getting her ass pregnant. Just all types of stuff people do to sabotage people to make sure that they don't leave the environment. There's a guy who did the same age, same graduating class, same everything. The dude never left the city. Why? He ended up getting somebody pregnant in the 12th grade, and he was never able to recover from that. He's now starting to recover from that now that he could be able to travel and invest in himself and do other things. He had to go right back on the actual operating thing right away.
And it sucks. It sucks when that happens, man. And I can definitely relate to what you were talking about earlier about being in your early 20s and hanging around 30, 40-year-old dudes that really don't even want you there. It's pretty funny. I've had people when I got into, farming and stocks and whatnot, I had people the same age as me, especially older at the time, and this was, years ago. They hated the fact that I owned my own land and I owned my own house. And even the ones that made a little bit more money than me, they were mad, like, "Oh, Black doesn't worry about anything with his freaking BMW and all this other stuff." That they were acting like this just happened overnight. They don't see the hard work that went into that, but they see the results and they'll go, oh, he never had to worry about anything in that. I'm thinking, wow, it's not even like that. But people will get angry at your success and then try to validate whether you deserve it or not based on how they feel about you. And it's really sad. It's pathetic and it's fucking sad, man, that there are people that feel that way. But you have to be able to identify them, as you were saying. You have to identify these people. Don't fight with them. Don't argue with them. Just silently walk away from them and try to make as little noise as possible so they don't try to, start rumors, sabotage you and everything. That's why I just keep to myself mostly.
No, I think that there's a lot of people that are just comfortable with mediocrity, man. When you keep the standards very low, you compare yourself to those that you're around. You know what I'm saying? You judge yourself by those that you're in the closest proximity to. So a lot of people, when they see someone trying to rise above that condition, and that automatically sets a standard because it puts a new mirror up that says, well, this is what it was before, but this is what you're actually capable of if you apply yourself in this way. And that makes them uncomfortable because a lot of people are uncomfortable with change. They're uncomfortable with challenge. And that's why they get left behind because, again, there's nothing that ever stands still in life. Everything is constantly in a state of either growth, stagnation, or death. And that's why when you talk about these cultural issues, specifically those that relate to the Black majority, it's because a lot of them are complacent with the comfort that they're in. And that's why, so many people are taking advantage of the DIY era that we're in. I wish that, when I was in high school, we would live in this DIY area where it was just strictly do it yourself. I've taught myself some basic coding skills just with, online tutorials and a little textbook I got on Amazon for like $2 over the course of, a few months. But these are things that you would have said, someone would have told you 10 years ago, oh, well, you need to go pay $1,500 to take this class and you got to go get this certification. It's going to cost you $3,000. It's going to cost you this much time. You're going to have to follow someone else's curriculum. But now, bro, we're in the age of DIY, man, where you don't have to worry about what your family is doing. Sure, they, when you're under 18, they have a lot of control of your environment. But as long as you have access to Wi-Fi and a computer, you can really save yourself now, man. And that's what I try to tell brothers to focus on. Focus on developing yourself so that you are the least amount of dependent on your environment and the society at large. The more freedom that you have from depending on the government, on corporations and on your family, even your own friends, the more powerful that you'll be. Make them dependent on you. Don't be dependent on them.
I completely agree. And I have friends who are preppers, and I used to be part of a group of preppers for a while, at least for a good 2 years. And this isn't the only way to do something, but it's good if someone just wants to discipline, go off the grid for maybe 2 or possibly 4 or 5 years or something. When you live in a do-it-yourself environment, you have a greater appreciation of what you're doing. You wake up with a purpose. You wake up with a goal, and a lot of people don't have that. They will live in the city their whole lives and have most of their immediate needs met, and so it just becomes like a weird sense of entitlement. And as you said, some people are very comfortable with mediocrity, and they want to shame or hate everybody else for not wanting to live that life. And as the old saying goes, misery loves company. That's why you have to steer clear of those people. But yeah, I've always been pro prepper. I think everyone I think everyone should be a prepper. I mean, if you want to, there's a lot of benefits to doing that.
Yeah, what's going on, Ike? Ike, make sure you drop your link in the chat. And most people on the panel, I'll make sure you do that as well. We got Renaissance Man, and I'm trying to figure out because I can't see the screen. BSNF, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, MOT? What's up, panel? Now I just wanted to quickly come up. I heard, I believe it was Black Wolf. You were just saying that, I believe you said you were in farming.
Yes.
Yeah, no, congrats. I was going to say the thing that resonated most with what you were saying, though, was having people tell you can't do it. I've experienced that same thing, and I always tell people that, You can kind of tell who your friends are when things like that happen. It's one thing for people to be constructive in their criticism and say, okay, you want to do this. Have you thought about X, Y, and Z? What happens if this happens? To me, those are the people who are the most valuable, the ones who are, okay, I see your goal. Let me throw some possible negative consequences that could come at you and see if you've thought through the process on how you deal with it. But when you deal with people who just straight up laugh at you or say, "Oh, that's stupid, you can't do that," or this and that, you made definitely the right choice by just cutting those people out. I've found that that's the best thing, and it's helped me move forward as well.
Yeah, and I'm happy for you, man, because it really hurts when people, like friends you spend years with, a family, tell you something like that. I was kind of mortified and taken back when they told me that, and I thought about just outright cussing them out, but then I just quietly paid for my food and just never spoke to, like, I dumped that chick and I never spoke to those guys ever again. I just became busy, I say, hey, I'm busy, so I just slowly just stopped hanging out with them, and I think they got the message over time.
Yeah, no, it'll surprise you with family. I've had family members say, "Oh, wow, the things you do amaze me at times." It's like, wait, what kind of view do you have of me then? Like some of this stuff is just, is not that hard. Especially the greatest thing I was thinking about this earlier today. The greatest thing that I think is the difference between our generation and our parents and forefathers is the information. I think King Sigma was hitting it on the head earlier when he was just saying if you have Wi-Fi and a computer, you can pretty much do anything. And even if you find ideas or things you're interested in, the cool thing is you can find groups, online communities who have those same interests and get plugged in with them. I mean, I was looking at some stuff yesterday. I found like a podcast, a whole website of, I'm looking at trying to pivot my career a little bit. And I found pretty much a whole community, videos, tutorials, even mentors that, people who are professionals essentially at the top of this industry. You can pay $100 for to have a coaching session with, which I'm like, that's nothing. I'll pay that in a heartbeat. So, all this information is there. And a lot of people, you don't even really have to pay them. A lot of people, if you reach out on some of these platforms, they're just happy to help. So, like-minded people appreciate company.
Yeah,
That's true. And
thanks for the 1999 super chat. Yeah, and that's like a lot of people don't understand that they've been socialized out of choice because of control. People wanted to control the culture so much that they were willing to flush down generations of children just so that way the people at the top or the people who didn't want to move past a productive measure could control the actual culture. Because people don't understand that they wanted things to be given to them. Then they wanted to produce afterwards. But you wasn't going to shame the dominant society into giving you anything. You were still going to have to work towards it. Because guess what? The Native Americans had the land that they got, they still had to produce. Still, they still had to go to court. They still had to fight the entire time. But a lot of people, they don't want to do that. They just want to give it to them.
that's what really that's what really irritates me, man, because I had a nephew who wanted me to just give him land just for the sake of him feeling very entitled to it. Like, oh, well, family live here, and my dad said he's somewhat entitled to it. And I'm like, yeah, and that's why he's not here right now because, he thinks he's going to try to get something through you and whatnot. And the whole thing is this age of entitlement needs to die, man. Like, it angers me so much because people, they think that if they get X of something, then it's going to just tide them over. They don't think long term. They think short term, and then they want to get mad at everyone else. And this is what causes people to be irritated. You can't work around a person like that. You can't really do anything for a person like that because all they know is how to take and not give back. But these same people talk about giving back more than anyone, which is weird when you think about it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the most frustrating thing is when you bump into people like that because you're coming with the mindset of, oh, I might have a like-minded individual. We can synergize and, take this thing to another level. And that person's coming with the, oh, I just want this. And, then I'm good. And it's like, you don't get how the circle really completes itself.
That victim thing is so overplayed at this point, though, man. With this 2021 thing starting up and having been through this COVID pandemic era, the level of patience that the greater society and other groups that have for individual blacks and the black majority, there's nothing left in terms of patience. So when we're talking about the government handouts that have been put down over the last 6-7 months, and this final one that's probably coming up next week, I've been asking people, so different individuals have been getting different stimulus checks, different handouts from the government during this pandemic, which again, it was a safety net protocol because the government was the one that caused so much of this damage. But once the government feels that they've done their part to like secure the safety net, the moratorium is going to be lifted, those stimulus checks are going to dry up, and that PPP money is also going to end at some point very soon. And I'm going to be curious to see how many people were smart enough to tuck away some of that money and actually try to get some things popping in the second quarter of 2021 versus those that are going to be in the same position that they were March 2020, or will they be in that same position, better, or will they have taken steps backwards? And that's what I'm very curious to see, because this whole victim mentality that someone owes you something, the level of patience for that is pretty much dried up because everyone has lost a lot over the last year. And people are just going to be asking, like, what can you do for me? Or what have you done for me lately? That's going to be the mindset. So I kind of feel that these people that are hanging on to that victimhood, that their time is already passed, man.
Well, I think one thing, one area I think with King Sigma we're hitting on is I think we are in an environment right now where, like, you hear a lot of talk about people wanting to, deal with inequalities and things like that. A lot of initiatives. That's my whole thing is right now I feel like the environment, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, you have all these companies who are like, reevaluating policies, saying they want to get more diverse and things like that. And, you got people complaining about BLM and stuff. But my whole thing is take whatever package you can get out of it. If it's what's going to get you into a better situation to get more skills so you can move forward, people got to take that. But a lot of people are just caught up on.
Hey man, somebody got some background noise.
It's not me.
Like they're moving something or something. But go ahead.
No. All I was saying was, people just got to keep in their mind that, hey, the package may not be what you want. It may not be exactly what you're looking for. But if it gets you the skills and things that you want, then, you got to take it and go for it and then turn it into something else. Because to me, there is, like I said, a small gap of, coming off the whole George Floyd thing and the people storming the Capitol, sort of a reckoning right now, but it's not going to last. Historically, it just doesn't last. Reconstruction only lasts 15 years. So,
well, yeah, they switch lanes very quickly on those moments. And me being right here at ground zero with the George Floyd, the trial is starting up right now. And, they already lowered the charges for Derek Chauvin. The officer and those associated with it, their charge for third-degree murder was already dropped. So this thing is going to be quietly handled because I don't think that the current administration wants to see around the anniversary of all that stuff when it gets warm, black people and white people in the streets again. Because, I mean, here we got, if I remember correctly, it was like $500 million of property damage here, in the Twin Cities area. So they don't want that. You know what I mean? This current administration. And I've always said that Joe Biden will be quicker to issue stronger reactions to the rioting and destruction of property than even the last administration was, because there was more pressure to be balanced in how he handled it. So that's not going to happen again. The reaction from the feds and the state is going to be more aggressive. So they're going to move on from that moment quickly. And like I said, if there are resources there for you and they're playing to your and pandering to you and they're saying, hey, we're going to do this even if it's just for tokenism, you would be a fool not to take it while you can. But to think, like you said, to think that it's going to last, come on, man. Look at the situation in California with Alex Padilla being chosen to replace Kamala Harris. You already see where the trends are going. The focus is on aspirational peoples. Doesn't matter what your racial orientation is or whatever. Those people in society are looking for people that are aspirational and that are bringing something tangible to the table in exchange for something tangible. But this idea of just like, this happened to me, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, that's a problem that for your group, but the greater society is placing no value on that. They're uncomfortable with it. They don't like talking about it, and they don't really understand it. So they would rather move on to something else. And people better wake up to that fact, man.
Oh yeah, definitely on the uncomfortable and don't understand it. Yeah, they trying to get this get past this as quick as possible. Back to business as usual.
Correct. And what most people don't understand is that we were supposed to be those people. That's why they gave us the right to vote in the first place. All this stuff, we were supposed to be in this position that we complained that the LGBT and that the black women are in. The men were still supposed to independently kick these people out of the family. If they were not going to be the family, you should have had a moratorium on messing with them, period. So having all this understanding and live streams on trying to understand an unchanged product is not a place where black men needs to be at. We need to be focused on our own stuff and trying to get us a better piece of this pie that is going on here. And skills and abilities is going to be the way that you're going to get there. There's nothing else. I'm telling you, it's more free on the skills and abilities level than it is giving you a chance, even though you don't have the skills and abilities.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more free and it's more equal now on the productivity level than it ever has been.
Yeah, there are so many things on the internet. You can go and pay, $100, $50 for a course taught by an expert, and overnight you can get a certification in this, or it's just so much information out there. You can literally create and be whatever you want to at this point.
That's what I don't get about.
Thanks for the $4.99 super chat. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's what I don't get about this day and age, man. I didn't get a freaking phone until I was like 20, 22 years old, and then many years later, in my 30s, and I'm thinking, I don't understand what a lot of these kids are complaining about. You can do, God, man, the internet. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. You want to learn about stocks? Boom, there's a course for that. You want to learn to be a writer? There are so many options that they have that was previously unavailable to a lot of people. That's why they can't give me I can't do it, or no one ever told me. Okay, well, I'm telling you right now, look on the internet, be whatever the hell you want to be. You want to be a writer or whatever, go for it. What do you got to lose? One of the reasons I work for myself, and people, I say this sarcastically, but it's true. Hey, why do you work for yourself? Because I got tired of working for everyone else.
I mean, that to me, that's a silly question. I work for yourself because you can control your own schedule. There's more autonomy. You can control the people who work for you, thus controlling your environment. It's just so many things. Like, you miss out. I mean, every person I've ever talked to who's gone and worked for themselves, they've always said they wish they and been successful. They've always said they don't know why they wanted to work a job in the first place and why they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah, man, because they teach the kids, at least from school all the way up into college. They teach them how to be little drones and everything. They don't really teach you actual skills half the time, so you have to go searching elsewhere to achieve it. So I understand the hardness in that factor, but at the same time, yeah, it feels great to do for yourself. I mean, to do your own, like, sign your own hours and like be your own boss. I mean, people will tell you that, well, at least I know that I'm secure over here and everything. Yeah, you have a little bit more security and whatnot, but the thing about it is, I think a lot of people don't know the difference between wealth versus just being rich. They think that, okay, I'm going to go work over here, then someday I'm going to win the lottery, or, someone's going to make me a CEO. And it's just, I mean, it's a nice thought, I guess, but they don't live in reality of the situation. I live in the reality that, okay, if I win the lottery, great, but I have to go on the assumption that I still have to generate a constant income of wealth. I mean, dude, if you were getting paid like $80K a year, like just working out right, that's great. But if someone knows they can sit on their ass and essentially make like 40K, may not be the same, but at the very least they're having a constant that's wealth. That to know that almost no matter what, you're going to be having that money come in. And at that point, it's just managing your money, which is another weird thing that a lot of people don't know how to do for some reason.
Well, a lot of people like to spend. A lot of people live vicariously through consumption. And America
and to impress people.
Yeah, America depends on that. America is very dependent on that consumption. What is it, like 70 cents out of every dollar is based on like consumption versus creditors?
Yep.
So it just depends on which lane that you want to be in. Some want to be in the consumption lane, and you do need a certain level of consumption, but there's always going to be those that are in that creditor lane. And I think for me, that's where I want to be. I'd rather be in the creditor lane than the consumption lane. And I think the fastest way to get there is if you do have to work for other people. The one great thing about working for a corporation or the government somewhat, but definitely for a corporation, if you're a person that's coming into a corporation with a high level of skills that can demand a high income quickly, that's one way to play the corporate game. But I wouldn't play the long-term corporate game. But if you're going to say, okay, like you got your MBA, you got a degree in finance, whatever, but you can go into a corporation, demand, 80 to 100K right off the jump. Maybe you have like a 3 to 5 year plan, and then you're out of there. Because again, corporate America is no safe space for Black men, and I've heard this from hundreds of Black men that work in corporate America. I've been there myself, and I've seen it. So, if you're playing the short game, it's a great way to accumulate knowledge. It's a great way to have someone else pay for any kind of credentials that you need.
That's a big one.
Save money quickly, but your whole goal should be to be going off on your own to do something. But I don't think most people want that because, again, their ultimate short-term, mid-term, and long-term goal is just to be a more efficient consumer. So they just want to be able to buy more of basically the same kind of thing. So like today they have a desk that they bought at IKEA for $300, but no, when I get the raise, I'm going to get a desk that's for $500. I'm going to get a car. I had a car for $15K and it had low miles. It was a perfectly good car, but no, now I'm going to get a $30,000 car. You see what I'm saying? So it's like they're really standing still, but their goal is just to be a better consumer and to be able to flash consumption. And there's groups out there. See, one of the good things I like about living in the Midwest, we have so many corporations here and we have so many multimillionaires. But the thing is, they're not ostentatious in the way that they present themselves. I worked on a governor's campaign for Mark Dayton, right? And he's one of the richest men in America, one of the richest in our state. This guy, the way that he dresses like a bum, to be honest with you.
Yeah, look at how Warren Buffett dressed.
Yeah, he got so much money, and he can get what he needs that he doesn't concentrate on the consumption. He concentrates on changing the world the way that he wanted to. Now, it doesn't mean that I agree or you agree, but that's one of the benefits of having a lot of money is that you can use it to influence certain things. But when it came to like pure consumption, this guy, you would have never thought he was the governor of the state, first off. And there ain't no way if you just walked down the street, you would think this dude was anything but a bum. But he's a creditor, and that's what's more important than his appearance. Yep. He's a creditor.
And not to mention, it's just called keeping low profile. And I was laughing because I have a funny story about that. When I went to the bank, and this lady was on her way to, she worked at the bank. She was on her way to work. I opened the door for her because I was thinking, okay, she's 2 feet behind me. She scoffs at me, takes the other door, and I go, okay, whatever. I get up there, and then that's the same lady I have to talk to because I'm making a deposit. She saw what I was depositing, and then her whole personality did a 360. It was real funny to see that. Oh, how you doing, sir? Hey, I'm sir now. Damn, that's an interesting change.
Oh, I've had that experience at the bank when I've made like a sale, and I went into the bank and pulled out, because one of the things I like to do, it's like a very narcissistic thing for myself. When I work really, really hard on something, I like to feel it. One thing I hate about digital money is that you can see it in your bank account, but you can't feel it. So sometimes I'll go to the bank and I'll take out all of the commission just so I can just feel it. And I've had that experience where the teller gave you that look. You see what I'm saying? That look of like, wow, you're doing something. You see? So there's benefits to having your cash right, man.
Yep. Black Wolf, do you have a channel?
Oh yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I talk about I talk about MGTOW stuff, and I tone it down and everything. If someone tells me, I'll tone it down. But it's mostly based off of shooting the shit. I do comedy and whatnot, and the reason I do comedy is because up and before the Corona and everything, I used to like to go down because I have friends and mentors that are carnies, And so we used to kind of like perform and everything. That's something that was actually my first job I ever had when I was in my late teens. It was pretty funny, but I made good money doing that. Made some great friends, and so I guess the performance bug never really left. I just like comedy and doing stuff like that in my spare time.
Okay, no, I didn't know if you did any of the farming stuff on your channel as well.
Oh no, the farming stuff. I'm thinking about making a whole separate channel for that in case they if I get bopped, because YouTube's trying to bop all of us. We'll make time anyway. If I get bopped off, I'll just make a new channel to where I'll talk about farming stuff. I was gonna do that earlier in the year, near the end of last year, but then like a couple of my animals got sick. My wolf dog got sick, and now I've just been spending as much time as I can with him because I know he's kind of on his way out. So that kind of sucks a little bit. So I kind of slowed down because I use him. He's my he's my herd dog pretty much. You know, I use him for he tracks, he herds, and everything. So losing him is kind of that's a hit pretty much. I can't really replace him, and I'd have to get like a whole new animal and reteach that all over again because he didn't have any pups. I tried giving him pups,
okay.
He couldn't have them.
Well, you said it's a what breed is he?
When I went, it was actually pretty funny. Like I didn't even know he was a wolf until I took him to the vet a long time ago. Apparently he's a gray wolf. But
okay.
A really big dog. He weighs 200 pounds, and
okay.
Yeah, I can never take his ass to the park. I mean, I had no idea because my knowledge on on canines was not very good. And then, one day a cop comes around and says, "You know, that's not like a dog, right?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "That's not a it's not a dog." I was like, so I kind of had to go and I couldn't take him to the park anymore. But he's trained, he's real friendly with people and whatnot. And so I just decided to keep him out of harm's way.
Yeah, I was gonna say Pyrenees are good for that too. Great Pyrenees.
Great Pyrenees.
Yeah, garden livestock. Literally live with the livestock. Sheep bark all the time. Pick up a scent. Bark all the time. So good for living outdoors and country life.
Oh, definitely. One of my biggest plans when I get the money, because I'm gonna sell, one of the properties I own, and like it's smaller than the one I'm moving now. I'm gonna sell that, and I'm gonna take the money and look for a dog that can breed. That way I don't make this mistake again, because had he had pups, I wouldn't be taking this massive hit. I just got kind of used to him, always being there, like helping me out with stuff that I didn't really think about it. And I'm thinking like, damn, if he had pups, I wouldn't have to train a new dog all over again. He would have, kind of trained him for me.
Yep. Yeah. Or if you just have one, like at a puppy and towards the late age, they'll pretty much train the other one, and you just kind of keep transitioning from one to one. So.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome to the panel, Dr. What's going on, man? I know your time is short. What's going on, man?
Oh, thanks for having me, MOT. I really appreciate it. How's everyone doing this morning?
What's up, Dr.
Felix? Doing great.
Long time.
Yeah, got a little bit of time. Just had exams all last week, so I got a little time on my hand. So anyhow, I think this is a great conversation. In fact, about a year ago, there were similar conversations like this happening over at the Black Brain Trust about, essentially with Black men, learning to escape, getting out here and get on your own, and not being afraid to go out here and take a chance and bet on yourself and getting out of that monotony of a regular 9 to 5 and not being so comfortable. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, and folks that I've spoken to over the last few years, even in healthcare, in my area, even in healthcare, this is something that happens pretty commonly. Most folks, I don't know if anyone's been following some of the latest news, but you have a lot of folks that have been leaving the more traditional healthcare roles within major medical systems and stuff like that, simply because, one, not just really the monotony, but just because everything that's been happening over the past year with the pandemic, and how that's putting so much stress on not just health systems itself, but really folks who are providing healthcare. And many of these folks have years, decades of experience, and they're going off and pretty much going into their own. going on their own, becoming consultants. Many of them are starting their own telehealth businesses. And so again, for me, given what I'm currently doing, I've spoken to folks, to physicians who actually are their own, who actually don't even have a regular salary, or because now it used to be back in the day where if you were a physician, you actually got paid hourly, but now most places have shifted to doing salary based positions, which is kind of some BS, because if you're a salary physician, they're gonna work you. They're gonna work you to death.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah. I was going to
And
say on that note, Dr. Phoenix, quickly, I was talking to my aunt, and she was just talking about the new contract, the traveling nurses and what they're having to pay. I mean, she was talking about people coming in $80 an hour base salary and then getting to work all the overtime they want.
yeah, I was actually talking to a brother who last night who's an LPN, and he's out in California. He's making an LPN. He's out in California making over $70 an hour.
Yeah.
He got two. He has like a couple of contract positions, and he's doing what to do, and he's in school to complete his bachelor's. So, hey, it's I've said this a long ago on one of the Black Brain Trust panels, that if you're the part of the reason why I talk about healthcare and why I strongly believe Black men should really pursue careers in healthcare, because it is one of the few industries where once you get experience, you can go out on your own and you can literally command your own rate.
Yeah.
It is not uncommon for folks, to go become, nurses, and then they get about 3 to 5 years under their belt, and they go strike it out on their own, become consultants, become travel nurses, whatever the case may be, and just become an independent contractor, which in my opinion, I think that's where it's at. I don't believe you should, especially as I help someone who's in healthcare, and certainly for someone like me, I know physicians who are travel docs and they're consultants, and they got out of the whole 24-hour shift, the whole 7 days on, 7 days off. So for Renaissance Man, you said that was your aunt or your mother?
That was my aunt. She's a nursing
nursing director. She's a nursing officer.
Yeah, no, she's one step below that.
Oh, okay. So she's
nursing director. Okay.
Yeah. So what I've always recommended, that for Black men, and this is applicable to whether you're in healthcare or any other industry, whatever you're doing, you get the necessary skills and experience you need, and then you go out on your own. Most Black men, in my opinion, have been too damn afraid to go out here and actually try to do something on their own, because they're afraid of actually failing. And so you tie yourself to a particular job, to a particular company or whatever, corporation, company, whatever, and you spend decades of your life doing this for literally very few returns. On average, if you were to get a raise annually in most places, from 3 to maybe 5%, maybe 7% on the upper end, if you're lucky. So you're essentially getting, single digit percentage increases year over year in salary, which is nothing. Versus if you were able to, if you went out on your own, it's going to take you some time to build up to there. But once you do, the money starts coming in fast and hard. And I'm sure MOT can speak to that.
Oh yes, indeed. Yeah.
And it's a slow process. And like I said, for me personally, that's the route I plan to go. I never ever went into healthcare with the intention of ever being a full-time employee. Never will happen. Once I'm done with residency and all that stuff, I am out on my own. And I've talked to so many docs who they just said, no, I can't do the thing. Because like, if you're inpatient, for example, if you're in the ICU and you're a doc, so you might be the critical care doc, you might be the hospitalist or whatever. Those guys typically work 7 on, 7 off, meaning you do 7 24-hour shifts straight, and then you do 7, then you do a week off, and then you do that. So ultimately you end up working about 14 shifts, 14 maybe 15 shifts a month. But then you might be making, I don't know, depending on where you're at, you'd be making like 250, maybe low 300s every year or whatever. But then you can go become a travel doc, and you can literally more than double your pay rate. So you might go from making $300,000, you could be making, $400-500 plus, depending on where you're at and what you're able to negotiate. And I think this is just something that's just applicable to men in all fields, that, you know, this is what your peers, this is what the white guys do, and what the Asians and Indians do. This is what they do. They go into their respective fields, they get a few years of experience, they leave that corporate environment or whatever, and they go out on their own, and they build their own business or whatever.
And I was going to add to Dr. Phoenix, the thing you were pointing out on the salary. I think people have been conditioned to look at a salary and not how much they're getting paid an hour. And then when they look at how much they're getting paid an hour, think of it through the lens of time is your most important asset, and think, okay, is it really worth me? Is my time really worth $50 an hour?
Yeah.
Because once you frame it like that, it's completely different of, hey, I got this limited amount of time and people only want to give me, $40-$30 for it.
No, I agree. And that's, I think people, because I know a lot of folks say, oh, well, they're giving, they're doing 401k matching and all this
Man,
stuff.
who
Like,
cares
look,
about that?
I know it's bunk. Unless you work for the government, most places only matching maybe 45%. It's not little. Only if you're working for the federal government do they tend to match pretty decently.
Well, even if they match it, it'll be there though. This is what cracks me up, man. Like, things happen that are huge, and it seems like people forget so quickly. When you look at like how people were wiped out during the Great Recession with their 401ks, I'm not a big fan of 401k. I think that a better way to invest your money is to open up a savings account, money markets, and certificate of deposits, and have the discipline to tuck away your money. Because I'd rather have the safety of a money market or a certificate of deposit that I can have my money locked away for different time links, but it requires more discipline and it requires more self-study. But the one thing about the 401k, man, it was a lot of people that were wiped completely out.
Yeah, I knew a lot of healthcare professionals who went through that King Sigma where they got wiped out back in, late 2000s, early 2010s, and when they should have retired about 10 years ago, here they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about that, just to put a little clarity around it, I think part of the problem is it depends on your timing. Like you said, Dr. Phoenix, those people already retire. Really what happened with them is they were in too risky of assets, part of it. Now, I'm not saying they did lose a lot of value, but they were in very risky assets and they may have been trying to play catch up because they didn't fund it correctly over the years. But as you get closer and closer to retirement, you should have been they should have been in more safer assets. I am an advocate of using it. I just think people have to be more diversified in the sense of, I think you need to have area of cash that you can go and touch, a good safety net, and then you need to balance it only because you miss a lot of the returns in the market. If you put your money completely just in money market. But I do hear what you're saying, King Sigma.
But here's the thing, though, Renaissance, when you talk about the risky assets, and this is why I hate that people have such short memory. Remember, most of since the 1940s all the way up to like 2000, they separated commercial banks versus like you or I just having a regular checking deposit.
Yeah, your investment banks. That was Glass-Steagall.
Glass-Steagall separated both of those. But what happened under Bush and the Democrats, it was a bipartisan thing. They got rid of the regulatory measures, and they started letting all these banks mix the funds. So here's what happened.
Yep.
You're overlooking the fact that, think about it, bro. If you're a plumber, right, and you work for some kind of plumbing franchise, your skill set is a plumber. Do your job. You tuck away your money. Your monies and your pension and all that is usually managed somewhere 5,000 miles away in Wall Street, right? So you might be working somewhere, in Montana for a plumbing company. But the way that they were doing the 401ks and even the IRAs, sometimes they were just the corporation that you were working for or the firm was handing that responsibility to Wall Street. Wall Street, through their lobbying efforts, were able to get the politicians to say, you can mix pension funds, you can mix regular bank funds with high risk investment funds. And they had like all these different tiers with these derivatives that the only people that understood it, and I'm not even sure they understood it, was the physics people that Wall Street brought on.
Your quants.
Yeah, we don't even 100% know 15 years later if they really even understood. they got wiped out, not because they were putting things risky themselves, but because just the way that those pension funds and the 401ks are run, they allocate that stuff and contract it out to Wall Street, and they put their trust in Wall Street. What I'm saying is that in the DIY era, you put your trust in yourself. Because again, I'm not saying you have to know every single thing in the world, but because of how, you know, different apps are out there, you can do a little bit more self-teaching, and you can learn the basics of managing your own money only if you have the discipline to do so. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself at risk of, you know, you're working all hard for 50 years and you end up trying to retire at like 55, but now you find out the funds that you thought were there are not there. Because again, don't think that the Great Recession was the only time that's going to happen. We had the Great Recession. Now we got this COVID pandemic that has destroyed so many small businesses. Do you mean to really tell me that you don't think in 10 years we're going to have another Great Recession type situation? Of course.
No. I think you definitely will. The only thing I was saying with the Great Recession in 07, if you look at where the market was then and where it is now, people who would have held their money would have made it back. They didn't have their money at the right. They needed their money and they had it in the wrong assets, and it wasn't there when they needed it. Which, yeah, you're right. That kind of goes right to what you're saying about security. I'm just saying you don't want to miss out on the gains, because overall the market since the 1940s has gone up tremendously over time. If you look at if people kept money in that over time,
this is why it helps.
I wouldn't use the word tremendous. You're reaching a little bit on that, because when you say tremendous, the stock market's average return over time is around 10 to 11%. That's not tremendous. Now it's good because it beats inflation. But what I'm saying is that look at Bitcoin, for example. Bitcoin is the perfect example to me, right? Someone having a DIY mentality and just, you know, reading the bit. My grandfather always said, read the business section, toss the sports section, right? So just doing a little bit of weekly reading on the business section, and you have like a sharp mind. Unfortunately, obviously, I don't have a sharp enough mind because I didn't get not one Bitcoin when it was under $5, okay? But let's say that you were sharper than me, and you were someone that saw that there was something out there that was going to be innovative in the cash markets, and that was going to change the relationship between the people, the banks, and the Federal Reserve, right? And you saw that Bitcoin was out there, and it started off at like $2 or $3. Bro, the last time I checked Bitcoin, I think it was like at 55K or something, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of volatility in that as well too. I'm saying
when you start to get into that arena, you're dealing with a lot of volatility and
but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying just even someone that just took $100 though.
I see if you get in. I'm just saying. I'm saying you run into the same issue of if you don't have your assets properly diversified, regardless. If you run into a time when you need your money when you're getting ready to retire, the same thing can happen in Bitcoin as that happened in the stock market with the volatility in it. That's all I'm saying. I agree with like looking out for investments, like things like Bitcoin. I'm just saying, make sure you're diversified as far as I put some in stock market. I look at things like Bitcoin and other alternative investments, as well as I try to have cash too. Because, you know, me and MOT were talking about net worth the other night. And he was like, you know, you got guys who got $10 million net worth, but can't find $100,000 in cash.
Yeah, and I'm big on cash. I'm big on cash, but all I'm saying, I agree with diversification to a certain extent. What I'm saying is that look at the kind of rules that they place on 401ks, though. Yeah. Is what I'm saying. They have lots of rules. It's not like, oh, well, this money is just there. And you're going to have to pay a penalty if you withdraw at a certain point, and taxes and all. Yeah. See, that's what you got all that. The penalties that you receive for trying to extract your money. So I agree with you and MOT when you say, I just believe more in liquidity, right?
Same here.
Yeah, so I'm saying, like, let's say you got $100,000, right? That you're going to invest in. My thought would be that $25,000 is going to my bank account, $25,000 to my savings, $25,000 to safe time-based accounts like certificate of deposits and IRA, and that last $25,000. Now I'm going to mix that up. Okay, a little bit of high-risk investments here, but I just feel that in that scenario, it's better for me to take that $25,000, look at some high-risk investments like a Bitcoin, look at some REITs or whatever, REITs or whatnot. But you have more control of what I'm saying with a 401k. Your money is being managed by Wall Street, and then when you want to get access to it, you got to pay a penalty.
Yes, your own money on top of the fees that they're paying you to manage your money.
Yeah, and they're taking money off the top. They're taking money off your accounts. To me, the biggest beneficiary of 401k is Goldman and Sachs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as messed up as this is to say, this is why I like dealing with preppers, because like you know that you're gonna get your return no matter what. And I'd always tell guys to, and I know this is cliche as hell too, you know, save your gold, save your silver, and always have some emergency like money on hand just in case shit gets like a little dicey. Because I remember years ago, I must have been like 25 when this happened. I left my someone got into my house, and I think I probably left the door unlocked. And I went in, my neighbor told me, he's like, "You're not worried?" I was like, "No, my money's still there." He's like, "What? Where'd you put your money?" I was like, and I straight up told him, "Well, I'm not worried about anybody stealing a book, so they rarely ever go for that." So I was I got better hiding places for money now, but it's good to always have physical money on hand. I've learned that time and time again, even if it's just as little as like $200 or something, because it's just a short way to handle certain situations, or if money isn't involved, at least with preppers, like there have been times I've fixed fences for practically free, and every now and then, you know, people will go, "Hey, this is some bread that I made. I made a loaf of bread in the kitchen. Do you want this for fixing?" I'm okay, cool. Seldomly do I ever go grocery shopping. I can count on one hand how many times I go grocery shopping. Probably like maybe twice a year, if anything, if I'm going for a sauce or something. So there's all I'm saying is there's ways around not trusting Wall Street, but it gets kind of tricky over time. And this is why it's good to learn how to micromanage and just manage money even on a small scale. So if Bitcoin and a lot of this other stuff is too complicated for some people, like in the comment section, just know you don't have to be like a mathematician to figure that out. You just have to know where you're putting your money. Know where, like the other guy said, the 100K. Know where you're investing your money, and know when to pull out. Know when, okay, this isn't going well. Always have at least, like, I call it fuck it money. Like, always have at least fuck it money, like money that you don't want to lose, but you're comfortable. If you do lose it, okay, well, that was a bad investment. I won't be messing with that anymore. And then move on, because I've invested in soap. I've invested in moonshine distilleries and stuff like that, and I've had a lot of success for that. But then again, I knew the person like personally on a personal level that I was investing in, and this is why it helps to actually meet with these people and go, "Oh, you make moonshine, you do this," and build bridges. Don't ever burn a bridge that you may have to walk over again at some point in time. If you're gonna burn a bridge, make sure you never have to go there ever again. Just make sure you're just completely done with it.
Man, you got to get on your Jason Bourne tip. If you guys have ever seen the Jason Bourne series, man, you know, he had bank accounts in Switzerland. You know,
Can I just speak to that really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
No offense, but I think part of the problem is that Black men think that they're going to find some way to kind of circumvent the world economic system, and that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Some of them.
So some of them think they're gonna make it through a game, so that's gonna be their currency.
There is not going to be this magical panacea of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, whatever that you're going to do, that you're going to strike it big, because one, Black folks and Black men specifically are a decade late to the game, at least.
Oh yeah.
And two,
yeah, but
go ahead, MLT.
But most people are talking about it as if they're benefiting from it. Like there's only 2 or 3 people, Ohim, Lionel, Todd City, and that's kind of it. You know, as in people from the Black manosphere who's legitimate about the crypto stuff, because they can show you charts, they can show you all this other stuff. All these other people are just clout chasing around illicit money being made. That's all it is. So I'm not worried about all the other people who are talking about something that they're not even invested in. So it's kind of like talking about something that's relationship nonsense. It's just that it's.
No, I completely understand.
Yeah,
no,
I'm not too worried about it.
Well, you know that Warren Buffett got that famous saying. Warren Buffett got that famous saying, and I always keep that in my mind. When I had my Series 7, it was something that my instructor for my Series 7 always said. What was it? Something like
when the water goes out of the pool, you get to see who's swimming naked.
Not that one. I'm talking about the one where he said.
Wow.
he also had a saying where he said, be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy.
Yep.
And that always stood in my mind, bro. So like,
Yeah.
that's, that goes back to what Doc and MOT are talking about. See, the problem is by the time that the most average person knows something about a hot stock or a hot startup or something like that, you're the idiot. You know why? Because all of the people that got in early, they came in at the lowest possible point of the market or the value of that asset. And of course, they're going to do whatever they can. Like, for example, you would think that it would be SEC violations, what the Winklevoss twins have done around Bitcoin over the last 60 days, pumping the stock, pumping it up, pumping it up. Now, they're the biggest beneficiary, the Winklevoss twins, and you all know them as the guys that were the original creators of Facebook. And, Mark Zuckerberg had to hit their pockets real hard because they won their case against him. But they were big on this Bitcoin thing, and they were part of a group of influencers over the last 6 months or whatever that were pumping the hell out of that price of Bitcoin. And guess what? That little handful of people, they're the biggest beneficiaries. Guess who's going to be the fool? That person that is letting their emotions control them, that's thinking, you know what? That Bitcoin, it's at about 55K. They're listening to the person that's saying to them. So they're listening to the influencer like, guess what? Bitcoin is going to go up to 100,000 by August 1st, right? And it's going to be someone out there that's going to risk it all. They're going to say, you know what? I'm putting my house up. They're going to cash out their house, long shark. They're going to go get them like 2 Bitcoins at 55K. And guess what? The bubble done already popped because the person that's selling you that, which I don't know how this isn't an SEC violation because it should be, they're going to be out of the market and you're going to be the one left empty-handed. That's how that shit plays out.
Yeah, no, I was going to say what you're getting at, King Sigma, is where the importance of networks come in. Because when you start talking about getting in on a startup or things like that, that's where you need to be in those spaces and connected with those people who, 2 years ago were actively trying to get people to come and work, giving them stock options in the company. And, when you're now catching in where it's getting ready to go public, you've missed it by 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's where, like I said, getting out of these environments and changing your network is so important.
But again, you just pointed to something. Skills. You just pointed to something. No one wants you around. If you're going to get into a company like a Facebook or one of these startups when they're at that level, you got to have hard skills. Because you're not getting in if you're not an engineer or an expert at marketing or an expert at building a sales team. Because in the beginning of those, they need people that can build a sales team.
Multidisciplinary.
In other words, they need experienced people who have particular skill sets.
Yes.
Multiple experience, because you need to be able to cover multiple areas. You can't necessarily afford an expert in every area.
Nope, you can't. And that's what they do when they first, because most companies like that are started off with like 3 or 4 people, and they might have a capital investment fund of themselves before they get outside investing, maybe 30,000. Because I heard the cat from the Small Business Administration recently talking about this change in economy, right? And he was saying that, your average business that's going to use a brick and mortar model, which is dying, it's going to take them between 25 to 40,000. But he said that the micro business, the home-based business, and the contracting business, the average was like around 3 or 4.
That's the moneymaker right there.
Yeah.
The brick and mortars died when Walmart came onto the scene for the most part. Walmart and Amazon put the final nails in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
So your brick and mortars are pretty much dead. So what it comes down to are a bunch of are smaller independent contractors, people who have particular skill sets who are able to leverage their skills based on whatever the needs are for whatever industry that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the principal problem. Even when you go back to you looking at something like investing in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, part of the problem that, at least from some of the conversations I've heard in this space over the last month or so, is that Black men don't seem to understand you can't invest in these currencies or be an investor in general if you don't have disposable income. And disposable income doesn't mean you're making the BLS average of $42,000, because I've heard that get thrown around, which is pretty true. But I'm sorry to tell you, you ain't got no disposable income, especially if you got children.
That's the main thing I was just about to say, Dr. Phoenix. Brothers can make it work on 60, 70 if they didn't have any kids. But that's the thing is you got guys like MOT talks about all the time trying to run people straight up into this trap of child support. And that's going to destroy all your disposable income to invest.
For validation for people that don't give a fuck about you. That's the worst part about it is that you're trying to run brothers back into the grinder because you feel that they're gullible enough to allow you to build your Ponzi scheme on their back. You're not going to be at child support court. You're not going to be there at bankruptcy court. You're not going to be there at divorce court. And so for me, I just kind of look at it like, be careful if you're going to sit at your right? So I think it's popular to call yourself a thinking black man. But if you're not able to exercise critical thinking skills at all times, I would even say your ability to exercise your critical thinking skills has to be strongest with those that are closest to you. The closer the person is to you or you're closest to the source, that requires a higher level of critical thinking because your emotions cloud you the closer something is to you. So people need to think about how people want to build their Ponzi scheme on your backs and on your naivete, and you shouldn't be that person that does that. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be that another person's victim. And because again, there's not going to be any accountability when things go badly for you.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Let me clear up this distinction, man. There's not that many thinking black men within the space. You have a lot of thinking black maggles who think that they're thinking black men because they use the actual term. But it's not. It's about the associations. If you're still affiliated with street people and pimp culture, you're not a thinking black man, period. Because the thinking black man is about creating an entirely new paradigm where the old 5 families of fuckery that I'm going to talk about Saturday.
5 families of fuckery. Wow.
Yeah. So it's not running the show. So most of this stuff is going to be done by yourself.
Yes.
And you are always going to have to operate like a fish out of water because there's not a lot of us. We're like less than a 0.001% of Black America on the panel who gets it. Most of Black America is caught up in the vaginal Ponzi scheme called child support.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and here's the thing.
The quote.
Here's the thing. Like, again, because of the field that I've been in for pretty long while now, when I meet non-Black men that are in these respective fields. So when I meet folks that have, for example, they've gone to school, they're geneticists or whatever. First thing I ask them about, what they're doing. Yeah, I do research, but I also got a consulting business on the side. And then they're partnering with other folks that they most likely went to school with, and they're building these new startups. So when I know there's a lot, there have been a few channels that have talked about biotech startups, at least not necessarily in this space, but in general. But again, when you look at the talent on these boards and the folks who create these biotech startups, for example, all of these new genetic home testing companies or whatever, or what's the other one? I can't think of it now. DNA lineage testing and all of that. And so when you look at the folks who start these up, these are folks who typically were in the same programs. They were in the same doctoral programs or graduate school together. And so these folks get together, they link up, they start businesses. And for some reason, Black men have not been able to get together as a collective and do this. And again, because this goes back to what MOT was just saying, that you have a very small percentage of men who understand this.
Wow.
And unfortunately for Black men, the price you pay for that lack of productivity in your life is really hard. So when you're not productive, you end up homeless.
I often made a joke
if you're making just the bare minimum, you end up homeless.
Yeah,
that's true. You know, I
If
often
you're
made
being
a
mediocre in life, you end up homeless. And what happens is that mediocre people get with other mediocre people, and mediocre people have mediocre babies together, and mediocre babies become drains on society.
Correct.
correct. You know, I often made a joke about this that kind of pissed people off in the past because someone was telling me, go off, get married and whatnot. And so what I did was I lit up the bong and said, I looked at him and said, if pussy was a stock market, I know a lot of people that are currently in trouble right now.
Man, pussy is a great Ponzi scheme though, because
Yeah, it is.
the great thing about the pussy game is that it's an endless product, and it's a desired product, but getting you to it is the part that's never going to come for you. But the person that's selling you the dream, they're going to use your labor and your insecurity to benefit them so they can get to it. So they're the middleman from you getting to so you have they're giving you the illusion that you're going to get there. And in that illusion, that's where the money is. And then they're going to use that illusion so that they can get to the top
Exactly.
of that. And then they're going to end up in child support later on anyways. But again, like MOT said, man, there's a lot of people that are using this title, but they don't deserve the title because, again, man, if you can't think for yourself, you're going to end up building someone else's dream. That's just how it works.
Exactly. I mean, and I compare the whole thing to like a drug, man. The other joke I made that kind of got people was like, damn, am I really gonna have to make an AA meeting? Like for only instead of alcohol, like Pussy's Anonymous. We're gonna have like a damn confessional stand. I relapsed the other day and just had to. These guys, man. Some of these guys, they can't like let the dream go. They get caught up building somebody else's empire, and that's fine if you want to help temporarily build someone's empire, but you got to always be thinking about how you can capitalize on anything. Doesn't matter whether you're working in Burger King or whatever people do. You have to always be constantly thinking about, okay, how can I capitalize on the situation, or what can I learn or take from this that is going to help me? And as the old saying goes, give a man a fish he eats for a day, teach a man a fish he eats for a lifetime.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dr. Phoenix, quickly going back to what you were saying about consulting businesses. You were talking about people, doctoral students. A lot of the professors that I knew when I was in college, they did the same thing.
They all have them.
Yep,
all of them.
They were research professors, so they would teach class, they do research, and then during the summer, if they weren't teaching class, or even sometimes during the semester, they'd be doing research, especially the business professors, or I can't speak as much to the health sciences, but I'm sure they're the same. They're basically working with some company on the side of, hey, we're doing a study of this, or we're trying to optimize this process, So that was how they made up for whatever money they were missing in, say, a more lucrative field.
That's why you get TAs. That's why they all have your average professor has about 2, maybe 3 TAs. Because why? Because
grade
those
papers.
TAs do all that work, free them up to focus on writing those books, writing textbooks, doing their consulting, whatever. But it is wholly uncommon to see your average professor, certainly in the healthcare field. Every professor I ever had, they actually were in practice, so they saw patients, whatever. They see patients, they do whatever. But then they also had their own businesses, and then they taught.
Yeah, you mentioned that telemedicine, Doc Phoenix, and I know a lot of like pharmacists who actually have it as a side hustle. They work their regular pharmacist job with a corporate firm, but then on the side they do this telemedicine thing with their own little LLC type of company, and they're banking. But before Mike V gets the mic, I just wanted to say to the brother that said the thing about the fish. The great thing about a Ponzi scheme is that you don't have to teach the person to fish. You don't have to give them fish. You just have to get them to believe that you know how to fish and that you teach them how to fish without any credibility or any proof. That's the great thing about the Ponzi scheme. You got it, Mike.
True.
What's going on, Mike?
Hey, peace to the panel, peace to the chat. Thanks for having me on.
What's up, Mike?
I'm chilling, man. I just jumped on. I didn't know what the context of the conversation was.
Nah, we were just having general discussion about careers and, people basically leveraging what they are learning in the workplace to move into more areas of independence for Black men, particularly, whether it be starting their own business, what they choose to invest their disposable income in, and staying away from the traps that can basically prevent you from operating and moving in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I might be a little bit older than some of the millennials on here, but when I first got started in IT, I leveraged Craigslist a lot during undergrad, and that really helped me get to where I am right now. A lot of opportunities on there in the want ad section about little projects that are going on and little events that are happening, and the social networking aspect of technology. That really paid off greatly because I didn't have to spend any money. It was all free. So, soaking up the game, getting inside these areas, shaking hands, taking business cards, emailing people, constantly showing up at events on Eventbrite, meetup.com, download the app, just showing up at these places for free, and really politicking with people and just soaking up the game of what's going on and then taking that back. I usually, most of the time you would see me back then with a notepad, but now I have a tablet. So I take a lot of notes in the app called Notepad++ or CryptoPad, even OneNote, Microsoft OneNote. I take a lot of notes. And that's how I kind of got to where I am right now, just a lot of networking.
Yeah, and what you were hitting on too, Mike, is, me and King Sigma were talking about people getting in late on major investments. And I was saying, that's where your network comes in, where, when that startup is starting, being in that environment you're in, building those connections and, looking at getting employed at that startup versus being like everyone else who's trying to jump in on the IPO or come in late after all the stock options have been handed out.
Yeah. Your network is your net worth. One of the big startups here, I talked about this on the Brain Trust a while ago, a big cybersecurity startup. Now they're a big cybersecurity startup, but back then it was just 3 of them. You had the woman who was a CTO, the brother who was I don't want to call him a brother, but he was definitely non-white. But they were working on a startup in my face. And we were sitting down having beers at a bar, and they were just doing stuff on a napkin. Now that startup is worth $250 million. I saw venture capitalists sign a check for $3, $5, $10, $15 million right in my face. And I said, Black men are really behind on a lot of things like this. They're just not
Quick
really
question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Those folks you were just talking about, how do they know each other?
They venture the same area. So one of them actually worked for TJX during the TJX security breach, which was one of the major security breaches. She was actually a part of that. The other dude, I think he's some kind of coder, but they all live in the same kind of vicinity of Cambridge, Boston area. And, everybody kind of frequents the same sort of venues.
So were they like students together or something like that, and known each other for a long time, or
I think they did boot camps together. I think that's what happened. I think they
and that was the point. That was the point I was getting at, because typically when you see those startups, typically that's how they group together. They had some type of common shared experience together, whether they were grad or doctoral students together. They worked together. They had some experience that ties them all together. So they were all rolled in these same networks. And that was the point of what I was getting at earlier on the panel about, there's no reason for all the brothers that I've known over the years, and certainly brothers that I've seen that I personally have provided care for, that were blue collar, that were truck drivers, that were plumbers and stuff like that. There's no reason why there shouldn't be 1,001 MOTs out here that are Black men. And one of the best ways for brothers out here to make money, for example, is actually through government contracts.
I don't think so. I don't think there should be a bunch of MOTs, because, again, that's what I was trying to say on the panel earlier. I think, like, when we say, well, Black men are behind on this, Black men are behind on that, we keep missing the fact that the household's investment in certain areas of intelligence is where Black families are failing. So I was thinking about it, right? Like, when you look at the 8 intelligence categories, right? Black people in the majority are doing really, really well when it comes to the verbal, linguistic category. That's where you get all these game niggas talking. That's that category. Then you got like musical intelligence. That's where you get the rappers and the R&B and all of that stuff. And then in the kinetic, things with the body, with the sports. See, we say that Black men are behind. It's the Black men that are in households that are more focused on developing musical talent, athleticism, and those kind of skill set. There would be black men wouldn't be behind anything if they were more logical and mathematical.
Yeah.
Analytical intelligence.
Yeah, and focus on spatial, because when we talk about IT, sciences, and business, spatial intelligence is critical in business. We don't talk about it enough, but you know how you solve puzzles. You have vision, having vision and foresight, and being able to take like separate groupings of things and put it together into a whole. That's a hell of a business talent that you see Jeff Bezos has, Elon Musk has, and
seeing patterns.
So it's a matter of household investment in those skill sets. We're just not directing black men into the right areas to focus their minds. That's why you rarely see Jewish basketball players in the NBA. You rarely see Asians, not because they can't potentially have more numbers in those leagues, but they put more of their focus in those other areas that I was mentioning. Then black.
Well, here's the thing where I do have a little bit of discrepancy. My thing is that when I say 1,000 MOTs, what I'm implying to specifically how many brothers, at least in this space, are truckers. I mean, truthfully, how many of them are doing something along the lines of what MOT is doing? That's who I'm talking about. Now, for brothers who are in more formal type of fields, if you will, if you're in healthcare, I'll tell a little quick story. I just recently had an experience a few months ago where a brother that I literally mentored for 6 months, I mean, literally, he would talk to me. I would trying to help him get into medical school. I would talk to him once a week. We would talk at least every Saturday or Sunday. I was going through the whole process of him doing all his pre-med coursework. This brother gave up on me. He literally called me, or actually, technically, he sent me a text message saying he don't think he can do this. He wants to go do whatever with his wife. And you know what? That was I surprised? No, not really. I'm not surprised, because when I get black men who come to me and want to do some of these things, and I really sit down and talk with them, okay, I'll work with you, and I'll go through the process. When most of them give up anyway, because then they realize, oh no, this is pretty difficult. You're not just about to walk into these types of fields.
But Dr. Phoenix, though, here's the thing: when MOT and I had that panel back when Celadon went bankrupt, I don't know if you remember that.
No, I remember that was the one that got struck down,
yeah.
whatever.
Got struck down or whatever, but it was a total conversation about all the different things related to the trucking, right? And on that panel, MOT agreed with me that black men are overrepresented based on their numbers in the trucking industry. It's one of the few industries where black men should be doing exactly what you're saying, performing at the highest level of that industry. But what I'm saying to you is that that's something that a lot of brothers are not going to focus on, because again, you will get more brothers to invest in things that are related to entertainment, music.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like pulling teeth, bro. Like, you can tell them all these things, but the shit that relates to that linguistic category and the musical category and the sports, I'm telling you, they're very attractive to you. So even when you tell them what you're saying, they're not going to embrace it in the numbers that you're saying. So you can only save what you can save, man.
Because I was going to say,
I've never been a proponent of my time is just too precious, so I would never waste my time unless I truly felt, you can do it. Like I was just saying with this particular story, yeah, it kind of pissed me off, because the guy I was working with was actually an engineer by trade. He went to college. He was an electrical engineer. Kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, so he's been through a disciplined, rigorous process. He knows what it is.
It pissed me off.
I know that feeling. I know that feeling.
For him to do that, and I would expect this from an 18, 19, maybe a freshman, a sophomore in college. They kind of get a little flaky. I kind of expect that from them, because they always will come back a few years later when life done kicked them in the ass, and they might get a little bit of sense then. But to be someone that's already established, you went through college, you went through a very difficult undergraduate program. So I would think you would have the perseverance to make it through. Just do these little pre-med courses. It is what it is. This is just a standard. And for you to kind of give up when you're damn it, and you're at a point where, okay, I just got these last 2 or 3 courses to take, then I can apply to medical school. Hell, you didn't even need to take the MCAT because you got damn near every medical school right now that are at least waiving or giving some type of conditional acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get an MCAT test day, they're giving you the conditional acceptance. So yeah, we'll accept you. Then yeah, maybe if you find a day, yeah, we still want you to take it. But if you don't, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But
and so when you're at a point now where you it's easier than it has ever been to get into one of the most difficult, one of the most prestigious fields there is, and I can't even get brothers that already gone through some level of undergraduate coursework or got an undergraduate degree to even commit to just that.
That's crazy too. How much money you would have saved too.
Yeah, but they put gorilla glue in their head over there. Look over there. They're putting gorilla glue in their head.
I'm not even about to go there with that. I'm not even about to go there with that. And that silly ass plastic surgeon that bother to remove. I
love that shit though, bro. What I'm saying is that, again, we always look at it from the standpoint of just like, well, this is just an area of entertainment. But I'm trying to go deeper and say that it actually falls under a certain category of intelligence. And so they're investing 99% of their time in that category only, things that do with joking, entertainment type stuff. And when they hear you talking about, oh, well, this is the easiest time to get into medical school. The federal government is producing more opportunities for, doc students to work for the government through the Medicare program than they ever had. All that shit sounds good, but here's the thing that you keep leaving out. Discipline and getting to that point requires a lot of discipline.
I know.
As good as listening to the Gorilla Glue. You got whole people doing streams, hours and hours talking about a retarded person that's 40 years old that put Gorilla Glue in their head for clout. Hours and hours where to do what you're talking about, Dr. Phoenix, you would have to go sit down in a private study or in a library somewhere with a big ass medical book, working through that whole process. That takes time, it takes dedication and discipline. I think that you're understating the work that you put in yourself, bro. I've been in law school. I know how much is required. And you're in medical school, and that's even harder. I don't think that they're not invested like you are.
I agree. Bro, I want to say I agree with you and even the other guy. The reason the gorilla thing, people talk about it, rather should be talked about, because I really believe that a lot of these problems, and maybe I'm just like by myself when I say this, we need to bring Darwinism back, because there are a lot of people.
Listen.
No.
The general idea we got, we don't care about women on this channel or what they're doing.
I mean, I don't mean just in reference to that. I mean in general, there are people that don't want to do things for themselves, and like the other guy said, he was willing to help this guy, drop what he was doing to help him, and that guy's like, oh, well, it's too hard, or my wife says this and that. It's annoying because I've had to deal with people like that, and my whole thing is, if you don't work, you don't eat, and I just really hate that so many, the age of entitlement and accommodating such people, it just needs to come in, because if you put somebody in a bad enough situation, they'll figure out some stuff. They will. I mean,
there's ways of doing it informally though, Black Wolf. Like when you use that term, it can be taken to mean a lot of things, but ultimately, you're making.
I really don't like that term at all.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't want to get the channel flagged over some nonsense. That's why I wanted to.
You don't want to
do
do
the
that.
conversation.
Away
from those type of things. Yeah.
Sorry.
I did want to ask you quickly, Dr. Phoenix.
Renaissance. Trust me, I feel a lot worse, and I've said a lot worse. So
okay, I apologize for that. I didn't mean.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Drop the liabilities from your life. Have a standard. And I just saw, the homie Nagone, and I listened to MOT and Nagone the other night. That was a good conversation. Here's what I think about the game thing. And I know this is going to sound funny, but the best game I ever heard was from two people on YouTube in the time that I've been on here, right? Nagone and Super Trez.
Hold on a second. Tampa Supreme, why the fuck are you in my chat? Why the fuck are you in my chat after you was talking all that stupid ass shit about me on motherfucking DJ Kuda panel? You see, this is what the fuck I'm talking about, man. You got these bitch ass niggas who just show up out of fucking nowhere trying to be your motherfucking friend after they just got through talking shit about you. Punk ass nigga, get the fuck out of here. Hey man, get him out of here. All right, go ahead, King Sigma.
Yeah, Cats for moving funny as hell, bro. You know what it is. But I'm saying that when you listen to what Nagone said a couple years ago when he said that, get your mind right, get your body right, get your money right, and keep your expenses low, right? To me, that's a better line than any game, quote unquote game, goofy dudes that I've ever heard in this space. Now, he didn't fill in the details, but that's what the thinking part is for. Now, Super Triz, this one time I was on a panel with Super Triz, and this brother's like a nurse or something, right? Has nothing to do with game, but he was talking and he said, one of the best moves that you can make in the social media age is to stop following hoes that aren't following you on social media. Now, that seems very simple, right? But you can eliminate a lot of problems in your life if that becomes your standard. So if your standard becomes, well, I'm trying to get my mind right. Well, guess what? The direct line from getting your mind right to mental health may be that you got to go talk to a professional. Getting your body right, focusing on getting your body fat low, having a presentable body, a healthy body. Maybe you can do it on yourself. Maybe you might have to go get a professional personal trainer. Getting your money right. You might have to go do some self-study. You might have to go work with a corporation or government to learn skills, or you might be able to do it with a mentor. That's going to get you straight to the money. I didn't see either of these guys ask for a $19.99. I didn't hear any of them say, well, tune in for next episode. None of that shit. It was very simple. Here's just some good, maybe it's uncommon knowledge, but these are some good methods that can help you as an individual take control of your life. So I ain't really spoken on that because I just, again, I'm of the assumption that there are critical thinking brothers here. But the longer I stick around, I find out, no, it's a lot of game goofy dudes in this space and a lot of treacherous motherfuckers that are gravitate towards these areas. But if you want to listen to some good information, take what those brothers said, apply that shit to your life. Because if you have any kind of common sense in you, you're going to find out how to get from A to B without having middlemen all in your life, period.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Dr. Phoenix, you were saying the person you were mentoring, did you feel like his wife discouraged him and that he would have finished had she not been there involved?
I'm not entirely sure what happened. I know she has like a catering business or something like that, and he would help her build that out. And I guess he decided to help her pursue that full time. And
I just found that interesting that the wife did not push him to finish. I see you've made all this investment and now you're going to quit.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, he was taking a course. He had already taken most of these courses. He really only had like maybe 2, maybe 3 courses left, and he could have applied in. I literally sent him a draft of my very own letter I wrote, my essay I wrote for medical school, everything. And how can I put this? I don't know. I don't think it was his. I don't think she was the sole influence. I think in my typical experience, when I come across Black folks who claim they want to go to medical school, typically most of them tend to punk out once they realize, well, yeah, you got to take all these courses, and these are not necessarily the most easiest of courses to pass. This isn't going to English 101 or public speaking 102 or whatever. No, this is well, you need kind of junior level, you need 300, 400 level science courses.
Yep, organic chemistry 1 and 2.
Yeah. These are not, and and technically organic chem is technically a sophomore level course. Yeah. So I mean,
it's me is
35 though, Dr. Phoenix.
What's that, brother?
Investment is pretty intense, right? Isn't like how many years does it take to become a certified doctor after all your residency done? Like how many years is it total with the schooling and then you actually going through residency and then you become a licensed doctor? How many years is it?
So if you're typically going into primary care, so most of your primary care specialties, pediatrics, psych, family medicine, internal medicine, even OB-GYN. OB-GYN is the exception, but those others I just named are 3 years. So you do your 4 years undergrad, 4 years of med school, 3 years of residency. So roughly in total about 11 to 12 years if you're going into primary care. If you're going into surgical specialties, that can be upwards of an additional 5 to 7 years plus outside of medical school, and that's not including fellowship. So if you go into general surgery, which depending on where you're at, that can be 5 years, sometimes 6 if you do a research year. And then if you want to do a fellowship like maybe cardiothoracic surgery, plastics, bariatric surgery, on surgical oncology, you're looking at maybe an additional year to 2 years, maybe a little bit more. So
but they
upwards.
did Tide Pods over here, bro.
And so yeah, it can get real crazy. So I mean, you can essentially you will spend probably about a quarter of your life in school.
Man, what the hell is that with the twerk contest on TikTok right now, bro? You talking all that cool and stuff. But yeah, that's a serious investment, man. You talking 10 years on average. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just think that we leave out the fundamental piece of this household thing because again, for a person to be able to have the kind of mindset to do what you're doing right now and to know that I'm going to have to dedicate 10 years just to get the license, not to actually be practicing, but to just get the license to practice. This is going to be a 10-year process. It takes a very dedicated, man or woman to be able to do something like that. And that starts in the household. That starts with the kind of investment that parents are making in their children. And somehow I just feel like it just keeps getting left out. This thing about
no, I agree with you. That was my. I think after that, I pretty much said I'm only helping folks who are essentially grade school, high school age. I'm not really working with young adults, college students anymore because I think at this point it's just psychology is just it's kind of hard to beat. I mean, kind of impossible.
And it gets tiring. It gets tiring at a point too. I think people that they don't want to take risks, and when they do, they want to take like bad ones. I mean, I had to explain this to one of my guy kids. He's like, "Oh, well, I want to do what you do. You earn a lot of money doing that, or you used to do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's different. I was dealing with something that could very easily maul me or rip my arm off. So yeah, I was being paid quite well, but at the same time, you have to have like a mindset or a passion for what you do. It doesn't necessarily matter like what you're making on it. You have to care about what you do. You have to be invested and dedicated in what you do, because if you're not, then it wouldn't matter whether somebody gave you $1,000 or $1 million. You'll never know the value. Because
I think in general, it's not just applicable to what I'm doing. I think this is applicable to any profession or industry you're in, and this is where Black men fail so badly, as that they never figure out how to master their industry. They never become an expert in whatever it is that they do. And again, the folks that are going to make the money, they're going to make the big bucks, the folks that are going to be able to strike it out on their own are the folks who are ultimately the experts and understand the fields and the crafts that they're in. And so whether that's, for physicians, for example, you have no choice. By the time you're done with residency, you will have racked up 10 to 20,000 plus hours, period. That's just the nature of the beast. You're going to pull off 80, 90-hour work weeks. Hell, even in medical school, this is a full-time plus thing for me. So that's just the nature of the beast. So, I know the guns on the panel, so
I'm about to this verses with Common and Kendrick Lamar, bro. This dude over here talking about reading a book. That's not the thing, though, man. I'm serious, man. The misology in the modern Black majority, man, it's high, man. It's higher than a lot of people admit, man.
Can I say something really quick? Because folks keep talking about military. I think I need to really say this about military. If you're not disciplined, the military will not work for you. Because I meet too many Black men talk about military as an option it can be, but I can tell you for every Black man I heard say that, I've met 3 times as many that never did what they needed to do to make best use of that time in the military.
Well, what about this?
Dudes that retire, you've been a career E5, a career E6, you ain't making nothing. If you're lucky, you might make $3,000 a month in pension, if you're lucky.
This might be a politically correct response, and I see that Nagone joined. I'll hand the mic to him. I would just say this about the debt to the brother Bruce and ask that. Think to yourself, here's the thing. We live in an age where there is free community college now in many states. If you're looking at debt, right, that's telling you something about where you stand in the hierarchy amongst admitted students to a program. They start at the top now. They've gotten rid of a lot of the need-based financial programs over the last 20 years. It's merit-based. Dr. Phoenix was talking earlier about the MCAT. The way that you make your money as a student admitted to grad school and professional school is by scoring high on the standardized test. The higher your score on the standardized test, the easier it is to not have debt when you go to college. Because if they got 100 students being admitted, they start at the top now. It doesn't matter what family that person comes from. They can come from a rich family, a poor family. They're looking for stats because that increases their ranking with U.S. News. It gives a more prestige to the university that gives more money from alumni. So ultimately, when you're saying, well, this person got a lot of debt for medical school, well, then you need to have an honest conversation with your friend. What did he score on the MCAT? What kind of school did he go to? Everyone thinks that just because you have a passion for something, a dream, that's really what you're supposed to do. I personally don't believe in going into $150,000 of debt to go to grad school if the person sitting next to you got a full ride. You should have been doing what the person that got the full ride is doing. Because guess what? You're actually paying for the top students to get free schooling at grad and professional schools now. Because the onus of
you just hit that on the head, boy. You just hit that.
No,
on the head.
You're absolutely correct.
You got it.
No.
Now, just let me add something really quickly. When I was in undergrad, I didn't just take the MCAT. I took the GRE as well. And the reason I took the GRE is because I was I'm a McNair scholar, and they paid for it. Good. And not only did they pay for it, but just being a McNair scholar, they actually put you through a whole summer of GRE test prep. Exactly. So the entire summer, I went through GRE test prep, and so I took it. What was that? That was it, October of that year, of that same year. And everyone that I've known that has done that, they've gotten tons of scholarships, even before I applied to medical school, I almost ended up doing a PhD because literally the school pretty much offered me a lab and told me, well, at the time I had a bachelor's degree in nursing, and they said, well, we'll let you do a PhD and you can become a nurse practitioner at the same damn time. How about that?
So why do we ignore that? I don't hear them talking about.
No, I just want to say this. I heard Dr. Phoenix mention that before, that he was a McNair scholar, because we were talking about the McNair scholarship. So you guys hitting it right in the head. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because my cousin's out there in Arizona, and basically a nephew of mine has gotten a scholarship to go to University of Arizona out in Tucson, and that was one of his top choices. How he got in there was because he had applied to law school the year before, but didn't think that his grades were high enough. So he had to work much harder on his GREs and his GREs and his LSATs or whatever for law school. And then his grades were off the chain, of which he had to pay money for these prep courses and so forth that he spent a lot of time in. And his scores were off the charts now. His brother scores off the charts, and he full riding it and bringing his girl out there. He's engaged. A young cat. He's about 30, 33, but he's going out there now, engaged with his girl, getting a place, and here it is. They're giving him a full ride. They're giving him a full ride because of his high ass scores, and that's exactly what these guys are looking for. So to do the work, when I'm listening to you guys talking about, I listen especially what you two brothers were just bringing up about really doing the work. A lot of these guys don't want to become super experts in their areas. You gotta follow that every which way you go. I mean, you have to be an expert test taker, and then once you become an expert test taker, you have to score high on these entrance exams. Then you have to go in and have great grades when you get into school, because they're gonna certainly sponsor you for that. So you have to be an expert at everything, and then when you get out into your practice, it's pretty obvious. Whatever you're gonna be doing, you better be expert there, or you're gonna lose your license and maybe a lot of other things as well. So you have to be super expert in everything that you do. And that's when I talk about really getting your mind right. And some of that breaking down of getting your mind right is get out of the bullshit and really become an expert and become very, very knowledgeable of what you're getting ready to walk into. Just like MOT, he comes out here and talks about his trucking business, but he comes in and gives you guys real information on really how to start this game and really and really to get in and really to get into this thing in a deep and kind of significant way. If you want to be serious about this is what you have to do, and that's what you guys are talking about. And we just got to keep pushing those kind of messages, because somehow this is getting lost in the translation.
Well, it's a status thing to go, and I think that when people treat schooling too much like a status accomplishment instead of a practical, tangible thing to get from A to B. So, like, for example, the brother that you're talking about that's attending Sandra Day O'Connor school, right? That brother would have gotten admitted to schools that were higher, that were not offering him money. So you might get admitted to like ASU, and they're offering a full ride. But what'll happen, you'll get someone that has a program is right where it meets them as far as them being in the top quarter of the class. They're getting offering the money, but then they'll be talking to another friend that got into, like, let's say Georgetown, and the need to compete for the validation of that prestige, they'll go off. Now they're attending Georgetown, and whereas at ASU they were in the top quarter of the class, they're going to get the full ride. They're going to take the $10,000 from Georgetown and have to graduate with $180,000 of debt.
Actually, you might want to triple that number.
What's that?
Well, yeah, you
might want to triple that. I know a guy who graduated from Georgetown, man.
I just want to say very quickly. Very quickly, my young brother. Let me hit this real quick. This guy got into Georgetown. He got in there, but the bottom line was what you just said. He didn't get all that bread. They got him in there. He's like, oh, you in here? Oh, you in? But his view of being in was, I want to be in, and I want to get that that education subsidized. I want it.
That was the move.
Let's go.
That was a smart move, and you know why? Because again. And Dr. Phoenix has went through this as well. Because like you said, he got into Georgetown, but all Georgetown was really offering him was their prestige and their networks, but he was going to have to pay for it. And guess what? Because of the way that the Sally Mae game is played and how the financial aid game is played, I think they'll give you like anything up to the cost of attendance in loan, right?
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, so they got this person who's making an emotional decision and being impulsive, and the government will give you that loan. But guess what? When you graduate, how the hell are you going to pay that shit back?
That's more than a mortgage payment. That's more than a mortgage payment. You look at it about $85,000 a year, okay? And that's on the low end side. That's about what you're somewhere. That's about where you are. And you come out 3 years of that, you can do the math on that. That's a small crib. Right there, depending on where you're at, and you got to kick that, and you got to start paying that money back with interest. So he's like, "Why would I take that when I can when I can go over here to Tucson or ASU? ASU wasn't giving him the kind of money he wanted, but Tucson over there, University of Arizona, was giving him the bread, gave him the ride, and he took it. I have to say, these are decisions you have to make, and that's what I think, when you talk about being an expert in your area and really going and really getting the maximum out of here. It starts just not when you become going to work world, but it starts literally as being a student and going in like you two young super sharp cats are. One going to med school, butter late as hell. You going to law school, butter late as hell. This is the kind of stuff we're talking about.
Okay.
And these kind of messages.
All right.
You have to get. Go ahead, MOT.
Yeah. So the conversation is centered around the things that we can do as people. We understand that investing in bullshit education is going to give you a bullshit result, and you got to pay the money back when you could have invested the time in something else. So I just want people to be centered around the fact that this is why you have to be the ground floor of the new culture that you want to create. Because this other culture and adding this other stuff that doesn't suit you to your ground game of control is something that you don't need. And it's going to take a lot of self-investment in order to get that stuff done. So I got to get out of here because I just found some trailers that I want to buy. So I have to go into this place and buy them. So we're about to get up out of here. Any last words, Mike B?
No, thanks for having me on.
All right, cool, man. Thanks so much. Go. Any last words before we get up out of here?
No,
Yeah,
thanks for
you
having
just
me
want to
on.
say, oh,
Yeah, go ahead and go.
I think you said me. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna
Oh,
say
No,
oh,
thanks
I,
for
yeah,
having me
yeah,
on,
yeah,
Motif.
yeah. Really,
Peace.
all right, cool. King Sigma.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, brother. Good luck with the trailers. I would just say that we've left the age of victimhood and we are now
Yeah,
in the age of do it yourself. So get on the program or get left behind. Have a good one.
what's going on, Game Changer?
I guess I'm
Tori.
late. Yeah,
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
up?
man.
No,
Go
I
on, man.
just came in quickly. I just had a break, and I just saw everybody talking about that. I just wanted to tell people, yeah, my school keeps sending me stuff about the no GRE, no MCAT, none of that,
Right.
and so and then you can go to be a nurse, you can go be a physician assistant. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. So you know, that's all I just want to tell people. So what was the topic for today? Are you done?
No, I'm done, man. It started off with explaining the dude's situation.
Oh,
He hit it just right. You know, he went to school probably about a year ago. No, January 2020, and he hit it just right. And he was coming into making like $50, $60 an hour, just as a simple, uh, CNA. Clean up after COVID patients and all that shit. Apparently, they
hmm
pay a lot of money for that shit.
hmm
But yeah, so he went through, made a boatload of money, didn't buy a car, stayed in the Airbnb, didn't go out, didn't do any of that stuff. So he went out to tell people about how well he's doing, and nobody wanted to hear that shit.
If I wouldn't have told anybody, I would have put my money away and,
Yeah,
and keep
yeah, yeah,
keep doing it because
yeah. Yeah, so
jealousy.
the lesson,
Brother.
yeah, yeah. So the lesson to him was like, you're bringing tangibles to a world where people believe in image. And you can't mix those things together. Like once you get into the tangibles world, you can't go back or hang out with the image people. That's the point. And it's like he was upset because he thought these people was gonna be throwing roses at his feet. Like, no, you're way better than those people. The whole point was for you to be less than those people. That's where it was comfortable with you at. So once you start being quote unquote better than they are, and you know how tangibles work and how full of shit they are in the position that they're in, they're gonna feel a certain kind of way about this shit. So you're gonna have to be able to remove yourself from a situation, go back to the world of tangibles, and build there. Leave these people who failed at black culture because all about image and bullshit and pleasing, counterparts. But you can do something else and be
Yep.
better at it.
All right. I'll let you guys go.
and
I
please don't
gotta.
be and don't be a
What'd you say?
Captain Save a Hoe. Please don't be. And please don't be one of these captains.
All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
I'm sorry.
All right, cool. So I want to thank everybody for coming through on the Man Tomorrow. Um, Saturday's show will be the five families of fuckery that formulate the modern day bitch ass nigga because we gotta fucking understand this fucking process. You guys, thank you guys for coming through. You have a nice day. Peace.